do have more resiliency. Their immune systems are different. There really is a difference. And, there used to be these studies of like, people heal faster when people pray for them, right? And it was like, well, what are the factors, right? Is it because if I know that someone's praying for me, right, like it gives me more reason to heal, right? There's certain aspects that we don't know, but what we do know is that being part of a community that's tapping into something does shift, again, our immune function. Like the studies here are amazing. It changes our gut bacteria. There's really, really fascinating stuff. And the purpose of ritual and the reason that, as Rabbi Chaim says, that like we create God, right? If God doesn't exist, we create God. The reason is we are creatures of meaning making. That's what the brain is.
Mayim Bialik is best known for her lead role as Blossom Russo. Who used to watch Blossom? I know. She played the role of Amy Farrah Fowler on the critically acclaimed CBS comedy, The Big Bang Theory. Any fans here? A role in which she received 2 Critics' Choice Awards and 4 Emmy nominations. She served as host of Jeopardy! How about Jeopardy fans? For 2 seasons, earning her 5th Emmy nomination for her contributions to the iconic show, which won its first Primetime Emmy the year that she hosted. In 2021, Bialik wrote and directed the feature film As They Made Us, starring Dustin Hoffman and Candice Bergen. She hosts a popular mental health podcast, Mayim Bialik's Breakdown, with over 60 million downloads. She holds a BS and PhD in neuroscience from UCLA and has authored 4 books, 2 of which are on the New York Times bestseller list. Jonathan Cohen. He is co-host and executive producer of Mayim Bialik's Breakdown, where he has helped shape almost 300 episodes of curious, open-minded conversations with world-class thinkers, neuroscientists, psychologists, spiritual teachers, researchers, and public figures who are helping redefine what it means to be well and fully human. Before MBB, Jonathan was writing screenplays, launching companies, consulting with brands, and helping envision and build things that yet to exist. He has co-founded 4 ventures working with Fortune 500s and led storytelling and strategy teams across media, tech, and innovation. Jonathan also has a background in meditation, mindfulness, and somatic healing. And now I'm going to go a little off script. Because I was an undergraduate student at UCLA, and I became a Jewish leader on campus, eventually president of UCLA Hillel, and I attribute much of this leadership to the fact that Mayim was one of my friends and esteemed mentors. Because as much as she pours her heart into her family, her multiple professions, her studies, she poured then when I was a student and continues to pour now her heart and soul into her Judaism, her love for Jewish tradition, her passion for the Jewish people, her advocacy for Israel. Yes, she led our a cappella group at UCLA, Shir Bruin, and she showed us how to effectively use our voices, and I still haven't figured out how to harmonize. Ask anyone, especially my husband. But mine, you showed us how to use our voices to speak up and speak out for the Jewish people, to be a light unto the world, and tonight is a perfect example to help raise awareness about mental health and the ways the next generation has been impacted and what we can and must do about it. How blessed I've been to have you in my life. How blessed we are to have both of you here at Sinai Temple. Please help me welcome Mayim Bialik and Jonathan Cohen. I kind of want to have your laptop because it makes me feel a little bit more engaged here. Also, I really want to talk about Black Mirror with you. I want to talk about Last of Us.
Seen every episode
No,
and
you
some
have
twice.
not.
I have.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, another lunch.
A whole other mental health conversation.
And I'm a little sad to jump into other mental health issues that are pervasive in our community because you mentioned so many antidotes and solutions and space for all of us to engage and to feel like there's an answer without going into so many details of what happened last night in Washington, D.C., and without going into so many details in terms of what happened on October 7th. And since I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit towards the mental health repercussions you have seen in the Jewish community, both in terms of the teen generation, but also adults, what you're witnessing, perhaps in person and online.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. Obviously, this is not part of the podcast because we wanted it to be a more intimate, kind of conversation that we all get to have. And it's not something, that I tend to talk about a lot in this way publicly. So it really is something that's special for your community. And yeah, very appreciative of the question. I should say, when we got to speak to Rabbi Wolpe, I was like, oh, this is someone who's had his finger on the pulse of what is going on for decades. And when we were young students, he was the rabbi that we, listened to for what's he going to say about whatever was happening, right? So I'm not an authority in that sense, but what I can say is, I think what we're collectively experiencing is a global sort of trauma. And, intergenerational trauma is something that we talk about a lot on our podcast. Whoever anyone in this audience is, wherever your grandmother was, you were an egg already waiting to be born. So whatever your grandmother experienced, you were there. My grandparents fled Eastern Europe. And intergenerational trauma is something that is real. We know the science of it. And when October 7th happened, many, many people experienced what felt like a very deep old trauma. Mm-hmm. And some of it I do believe is, I don't want to say mystical, but there's things we don't understand fully about what that means to have an experience trigger those kinds of feelings. But also there's a practical component to it. Many of us were told when we were kids, something bad's going to happen, right? Both to the Jewish people and also just to us as individuals, right? Many of us grew up with anxious.
Like, where's your hiding place? Is that
Say
what you're
again?
saying? Where's your hiding place?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so for many of us, what we've been living through in the last, 2 years or so is, oh my gosh, what if they were right? Whoever they is, yes, right? Yes. What if they were right? And that feels deeply disturbing. Mm-hmm. And people have a variety of different responses, which I think is also important. And you see that in the Jewish community. People like Noah Tishby, who I look up to because she's there. She's in Israel. She's interviewing every survivor. And she's like in the fields with she's unbelievable. And for a lot of Jewish people, especially public people, it's like, where do I put my energy? What do I do? Deborah Messing's done incredible things, David Schwimmer, all these people. But for those of us also in the public eye, it comes at a very high price. So it's also what kind of, trauma are we all living out? Also, publicly grieving is not comfortable for a lot of us, right? The notion of going, let's say, to Israel and experiencing the South, that might not be for everybody. So there also has to be an understanding of the variety of the reaction and the sort of mental health impact of that. And it's going to vary tremendously, but it's an enormous, enormous trauma for our people, of course.
I mean, if I can just add to that piece, I don't know how many months ago, maybe 6 or 9 months ago, I had an opportunity to be on a panel with a Holocaust survivor and a Nova Festival survivor. And it was a JNF event, and the conversation between them was fascinating because the Holocaust survivor said to the Nova survivor, you have something that I didn't have for years upon years. I really didn't have a forum to share my story. We were told, you're moving on, you have an opportunity for a new life. The story gets kind of pushed under. And the Nova survivor, I mean, I'm glad various places, including synagogues and hillels and churches and across the country, are opening their doors so that those who would like to share can share. An interesting response to kind of this mental health crisis that they're experiencing, that it's perhaps not something that will be shoved under, but rather something that will be shared.
And also there's that notion, we talked about it, earlier, there's also this performative notion that many of us feel is kind of happening, meaning, are you posting the right thing?
Yes. Right.
Are you reacting correctly? And for the survivors, how are they presenting themselves to us? What's the way that we want to frame it? I have a lot of family in Israel. I'm sure there are those of you here who do as well. There's this notion of it has consumed the entire country, right? Everyone knows someone who was either taken or is no longer with us, right? So the notion that we have this sort of like cultural trauma also that's, in Israel, it's very confusing as to how do we present it. Israel seems a lot more cohesive. My Israeli family says, we're worried about what's happening in America, right? Meaning there's a different sense of kind of cohesion, and yeah, it's very disturbing to see what's happening, around the world, and that is it's an extension of our mental health response as well.
And I also appreciate, I know we're going off script, but I appreciate what you said in terms of how public we want to be grieving or responding. I know I often think to myself, well, I have to repost this. Right. If I don't repost this, then no one else will see this. But then you look at good. You look at the next person post. Oh, they posted the exact same message.
And as we talked about, it becomes part of your identity. What did I post? Mm-hmm. What did I align with? Did I like it? And what does it mean when I like something? And how should I, repost it? It can be maddening.
It can be maddening, and to also take a step back to think, how am I protecting my own mental health as to whether or not I'm choosing to respond?
That's the thing also. I, just the scrolling of seeing all those images, and, every time a hostage is released, it's like like a drug. I'm glued to it. And like, I need to see, and I want to see the video of them hugging their mom for the first time. Yes. And look, some people can do it and it doesn't impact them. When I go on social media like that, heartburn within 2 days, I have a burning in my chest. Oh. It's the stimulation, it's the emotional. And Jonathan keeps saying, how many times are you going to get heartburn when you are on social media to learn you're not supposed to do that?
So it's not from the processed food, Jonathan. It's from the scrolling, is the heartburn. Okay. I appreciated that you spoke about spirituality as kind of one of the antidotes that we can lean into, but I'm wondering if you could also speak to the idea, the positives of Jewish community, what Jewish community does for mental health. Also, because I know how much you love ritual and how much you love tradition, how that can play in positive mental health.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of like a personal answer, like for me, and then there's, I think, a general answer, but it's also a scientific one, because we do know that people who are part of community do have more resiliency. Their immune systems are different. There really is a difference. And, there used to be these studies of like, people heal faster when people pray for them, right? And it was like, well, what are the factors, right? Is it because if I know that someone's praying for me, right, like it gives me more reason to heal, there's certain aspects that we don't know, but what we do know is that being part of a community that's tapping into something does shift, again, our immune function. Like the studies here are amazing. It changes our gut bacteria. There's really, really fascinating stuff. And the purpose of ritual, and the reason that, as Rabbi Chaim says, that like we create God, right? If God doesn't exist, we create God. The reason is we are creatures of meaning making. That's what the brain is. It's a pattern, it's a pattern recognizer, and it wants to make meaning of everything. It's totally human, right? It's a human experience to want to find reason, to find purpose. And ritual is one of those things that gives a groove in our brain that we fall into so that we don't fall into those other grooves, right? That's why, when we're told to praise God, and it's like, how much can I praise God? Like, what is with it? Like, El Rachum V'Chanun, like, I get it. But the notion is we are creating the chemistry of believing that there is goodness, there is Rachmanis, there's what's the English? Compassion. There's an ability to generate positivity the way we place on God, right? If God can be compassionate, I can be compassionate. If God can be slow to anger, I can be slow to anger. The ritual is what solidifies that stuff. And I know it's not for everyone, but the fact is there's a tremendous amount of beauty there. And there's a tremendous amount of wisdom in the thousands of years of tradition that we have. And the fact is, in particular Judaism, it's got a very, very special history. It's a very, very special foundation. There's a lot of things wrong with religion. There's a lot of things wrong with the people who believe, right? But that's humans, that's not God, that's not the source, that's not gravity, that's not all those other things.
I want to give 2 plugs, okay? 1 plug for synagogue membership, because it clearly is helpful for mental health. That's plug for Sinai Temple membership, how about that? Second, I want to give a plug for Shabbat. I mean, the fact is, this parsha this week, Bachar B'chukotai, we talk about the Shemitah year, and we talk about letting the land lay fallow, but it's really a plug for rest.
Yep.
And so I wonder if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, Shabbat is It's, yeah, well, I mean, Shabbat, we keep the Shabbat and Shabbat keeps us. That's, a Heschel quote, right? Just as we observe and hold the Sabbath, it holds us as well, it guards us. Shabbat is a uniquely Jewish invention. The notion of a day of rest did not exist until we see it in our liturgy thousands of years ago. It's a radical notion that we need to rest and recuperate, and the Jewish people did attach it to this notion of God, this, the ultimate creator, resting and giving us that peace. And for many people, it's the only time they turn off their phone. And it's a really, really powerful, even if you're not an observant person, it's a very, very powerful notion to take on. So if you're experimenting with trying to get off your phone, start with a Friday night, start with a Saturday, see what it's like, see the things that you can go without, and the Sabbath is literally offering us that.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up. How about one final message to the parents and grandparents who are here tonight? Kind of one summarizing, I'm leaving here tonight and this is what I'm taking about mental health and the teen generation, and one message to the teens who are here this evening.
I want to thank the young people for being here instead of hanging out on your phones. I'm very impressed. I know there's just a handful of you, but I appreciate you being here and hanging out with all of us who are wringing our hands and being super stressed about what happens in your lives. But I think, like, if I were to give a message, for the young people who are here, or for anyone who wants to take that message home, the purpose of parents is to protect you, right? To the best of our ability. That is our goal, and we don't always do it right. We don't always get it right, and we don't always do it perfectly. But that's a process. It's the process of being a family, is that we're learning together. So in terms of the parents, I don't know if Jonathan would have the same message. I definitely think modeling is important, and it's kind of like, when you're pointing a finger, think of how many fingers are pointing back at you, right? Put down the magnifying glass and pick up the mirror. What are you doing? What are you really, really doing? When is it really necessary for you to dial in and model that kind of behavior and model those changes? And it's something that I have to do every day, because I'll forget it, or I'll have a couple good days and then it's like, oh, but this happened in the news, and so I need to, right? So it's something that we have to kind of keep refreshing for ourselves. And yeah, we don't have to do it perfectly. We just have to kind of keep growing and changing and, sort of spiraling up.
So beautiful. We are so grateful to you, Mayim. We're grateful to you, Jonathan. Thank you. Just indulge me for 1 minute. I just want to do some final thank yous. Thank you once again to Amanda Harrison, Hannah Buckland, Roy Regev, Christopher Pinciali, Rebecca Small, Carolyn Hoffman, our maintenance team, our security team. Thank you so much. Thank you to Jonah Light. Thank you so much. And just one more just piece of gratitude, Mayim. We know how intensely busy you are. So the fact that you and Jonathan gave your time with us tonight and really shared from your heart and from your soul, we feel blessed.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say we're so excited. Thank you. We're so excited that we could.